Welcome back, everyone, to the Heatwave Podcast, part of the Roundtable Sports Network. I'm your host, Anthony Aguirre, Miami Heat beat writer for the Roundtable Sports Network, joined by Anthony Pasciolla, Philadelphia 76ers publisher. AP, how we doing, my man?
I think you know the answer and you don't want to hear it, so I won't rub it in your face, but I'm doing great.
As the whole world obviously knows, even though this was not done in the 2010 fashion where LeBron announces to the world in front of television, he announced yesterday that he is signing with the Philadelphia 76ers on a 2-year, $8 million contract. Second year is a player option. He can opt out of that to keep having some power. But AP, the Sixers have already had an eventful offseason. Obviously, well, even going into the playoffs, that comeback against Boston from 3-1 and then getting swept by the Knicks, to then going out of free agency, getting Anthony Simons, getting Dean Wade, eventually getting Jaylen Brown in a crazy trade, to now getting LeBron. Where do you see this Sixers team compared to the past, let's say, 2 decades?
They're up there for sure. I think going into this next season, they should be the unanimous title favorite. I don't think there's any questions about that in my mind. The depth is there now. I don't know if you saw the report this morning. They're also going after Contavious Caldwell Pope. That's
Yes.
another really nice pickup there, in my opinion. But the depth is there. Obviously, the star power is there. And yet, I'm still seeing them ranked number 5, number 6 in all these big outlets power rankings, which I think is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Behind teams, I've even seen them behind the Celtics, which is which is
Ooh.
outrageous to me, especially even after the Jaylen Brown trade, let alone the LeBron signing. But to answer your question about the past 2 decades, this team seriously, if they can mesh well, is up there with that 2017 Warriors, the 2012 Heat. Like it is that talented of a squad.
People talk about fit, and this was also a question on the Miami Heat side. Where does LeBron fit? Honest to God, he could fit. He could do anything.
Yes.
We're talking about a 41-year-old who can play center all the way
Mhm.
to point guard. Where do you see LeBron best fit on this Sixers roster?
Kind of like a point forward. So in
Mm-hmm.
the starting lineup, he's technically going to be the power forward. That's just how it works out with Maxey and Edgecombe in the backcourt, Jaylen Brown at small forward, and Embiid at center. LeBron just kind of naturally fits there at power forward. But
Mm-hmm.
don't be surprised when he's bringing up the ball on a regular basis and acting as that 1A playmaker in this offense. Because, yes, Maxey can play make. Maxey learned a lot from James Harden, I'm sure, about playmaking. But don't be surprised when LeBron James is the primary playmaker on this team and he's okay taking a backseat role on the defensive end of the floor when it comes to scoring, even rebounding. His services would still be needed there, but you get the point. That's where I kind of see him best fit is as a playmaker and absolutely a veteran leader, which is the main thing this team was missing. With so many mouths to feed on that roster, you needed an alpha to come in and be able to demand everyone's respect, whether it's with his accolades, whether it's his resume, whatever the case may be, he will demand respect. And I think that is going to go a long way for this Sixers team.
This was a question I got asked. Now I have an answer for it, but I want your perspective on it. Obviously, having a guy like LeBron draws a lot of attention.
Sure.
Do you see this at all hitting VJ's growth?
Yes, I even thought the addition of Jaylen Brown before the James signing could have stunted his on court growth a bit. Because Jaylen Brown on a regular basis, and this isn't something people think about a lot, is going to be guarding one of the other team's best players, which was really supposed to be VJ's assignment moving forward, at least in my eyes. So defensively, I think he's not going to be challenged as much as he would like to be. And then
Mm-hmm.
offensively, he's just simply not going to get the touches that he deserves in this offense. He is the consensus fifth option at this point, which is crazy to say. But I still think he'll be impactful, don't get me wrong, but the numbers aren't going to skyrocket like 3 months ago we would have said.
I'm with you on that. My main viewpoint on that was mainly that VJ, he showed flashes, but he didn't do enough where you're thinking to yourself, all right, he's an immediate superstar. So
Sure.
you're not really like, yes, this could be an impact thing in terms of growth, but it's not like as if he's gonna decline to a great extent. So you already got what you got out of him, and he could play as like a a dunker spot kind of guy. He's athletic for it. I mean, so I see what the viewpoint and narrative is, but again, VJ, promising young player, but then again, it's like how high really is that ceiling for him
Hmm.
to like to what he could really be. And if you're if and also LeBron's not going to be here for too long. So if anything,
Sure.
you're taking the backseat for at least 2 years. So there's that. Just want to read off of what LeBron said in the announcement. I thought I was done when the season ended. I wasn't ready to announce it, and I knew I needed some time to really decide. But I was pretty sure I played my last game. I was honest at the last press conference when I said I needed to look at myself and decide. He misspelled decide. Shame on you, LeBron. If I still love this game, I still truly love this game and I have more to give. He went on and on and on about family and the decision. And then in the final quote of this thread, he said, of course, about winning another championship. I believe I can help the Philadelphia 76ers. One more grammar issues here, Braun. Come on, what are we doing? You own a school, LeBron. I believe I can help make the Philadelphia 76ers a championship team, and I am so excited to energize a new fan base and start this incredible journey one last time. Now, AP, does this sound like to you like after even like let's say one more year, LeBron retires?
I think it all depends on the outcome. I think he signed that 2-year deal, giving himself a 2-year window to win the championship. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. If they win the championship next season, which I think is well within the realm of possibilities, I
Mm-hmm.
think he calls it a career there. He goes out on the ultimate high. His GOAT case is presented. I already think he's better than Jordan. That's just my personal opinion. But this would just put him over the top in most people's minds. Um, but I think if they fall short, even in the NBA Finals, I think he comes back and plays that second season in Philadelphia. I don't know where it was in his quote, but he said, "This is my last decision." So I don't see him going anywhere but Philadelphia. I think he would play that second season in Philly. It's not like he would decline his player option and go somewhere else, in my opinion, at least. But I think it all comes down to outcome. If they win the championship, he goes out on the ultimate high. He is most people's GOAT probably at that point, winning a championship with 4 different teams, the first ever to do so. Um, I think that's the case really here is outcome.
Where do you see the Sixers in the Eastern Conference? Because before LeBron signed, in my opinion, it was really the Heat and the Sixers as like as that 1-2. But now I think the Sixers, and I'm sure most other outlets would agree that they're the consensus favorites.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree. Number one to me in the East, no questions asked. I mean, the East is loaded, and we were talking about this last episode. It is not going to be an easy path to the finals by any means. You might have to go through Toronto, Boston, Miami, New York, Cleveland, like the list, Indiana, the list really does just go on and on. And then you play 3 of those teams potentially, and then you have to go to the NBA Finals and face Victor Wembanyama or Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. So to say LeBron is ring chasing, I just want to bring this up for a second. I think is
Go ahead.
foolish talk. I understand he's going to the team that gives him the best chance to win a ring. So in itself, that is ring chasing. But when you look at the landscape of the NBA, it is the furthest thing from ring chasing. He's looking to unlock a team. He's looking to put a team over the hump that the 76ers weren't quite there yet, even with Jaylen Brown. They had the chemistry concerns. They had the lack of a playmaker. They had these concerns still, and LeBron provides in a way to ease those worries, in my opinion. So to say he's ring chasing is just a foolish argument to me. They still have such a tough path to winning a championship. So if he goes out and helps them do that, he deserves all the credit in the world.
I was having this conversation. I don't know how you could be a ring chaser when you already got him. So I don't.
Yeah,
It
valid
make more
point.
it make more sense if James Harden was ring chasing.
Sure.
Like that's a good way to label it. I just don't know if LeBron suits that. So yeah, I'm with you on that part. I don't know why that would just get blurted out there. Now, as you know, AP, the Sixers have not even made the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001. Allen Iverson was playing, and neither of us were even born. Just to give a perspective here, I'm 23, so I'm older than you, but even I haven't seen that in my lifetime. Just how strong of a chance would you give the Sixers to at least make the Eastern Conference Finals?
I think that's probably their floor in my eyes. That
Mm,
might be a little bold to say, but the way I look at their floor and their ceiling is all dependent on Joel Embiid. I think their ceiling with Embiid is a championship. I think their floor without Embiid is the Eastern Conference Finals. I think a team of Tyrese Maxey, BJ Edgecombe, Jalen Brown, LeBron James can get you to the Eastern Conference Finals without a full strength Embiid, really without Embiid at all. I think of him as a luxury in that sense. But once you get to the Eastern Conference Finals and you're facing the Kawhi Leonard led Raptors, the Giannis led Miami Heat, the reigning champion New York Knicks, that's when Embiid becomes your X factor. That's when he becomes the most talented player on the floor, no questions asked, cannot be stopped on the offensive end. So I think the Eastern Conference Finals is really their floor. I think they're pretty much guaranteed to get at least there, but once you get to that point, that's when Joel Embiid comes in.
I agree with you. And I'm glad you mentioned Embiid because I wanted to say this. If I'm Bob Myers, if I'm the front office, if I'm even Nick Nurse, if I will have a complete sit down with Joel Embiid in person because he deserves dignity in this conversation here. He needs to take the biggest back seat he's ever taken.
Mhm.
Because, as you and I have known, and we've criticized Embiid on this, health is not a strong suit. He's
Right.
hardly available. And part of it is the flopping. I mean, if you weigh that much and you are that big of a guy and you're falling consistently on a hard wooden floor, you're breaking down your body, especially throughout an 82 game season. Embiid needs to take less shots, have less plays run for him. If anything, he could be more of a facilitator as well. If that's an
Mhm.
area that he could really unlock, me personally, I haven't seen him more. I haven't seen him as a facilitator, but maybe that's a new area he grows in. Who knows? But if I'm the Sixers, I'm telling him he needs to take a back seat to preserve himself for the playoffs because that's when they need him and they need him healthy going into it. That's been an issue as well going into the playoffs without any good certainty. So you have the he has the biggest health insurance in the NBA because you got LeBron, you got Jalen Brown, VJ, Tyrese, even Anthony Simons. These are all shot creators and shot makers. So I'm telling Embiid this summer, obviously get in shape, stay healthy, but you are not getting the shots that you were getting even like 2 years ago.
Yeah, Embiid, in my opinion, deserves to be the number one option on this team, but I don't think they should make him the number one option on this team. Hopefully that makes sense to the viewers. But I agree with you completely. Taking a backseat role, there's all these questions on social media about the usage rate of all five of these guys last season and whose usage rate is going to go down. I agree with you that it should be Joel Embiid, at least during the regular season. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the reality of it because they want him to stay healthy. So there's no need, like I used the word luxury earlier, and I'll use it again. Embiid really is a luxury in the regular season at this point, which is something he's never experienced before. Whether he's viewing that in a positive way or a negative way, I guess remains to be seen. But hopefully it's the former and he's viewing it in a positive light.
Yeah, the Sixers have relied on Embiid so much,
Mhm.
and understandably why. I mean, even though I'm not entirely in favor of him winning MVP, he still showed that he's a dominant center, that he's definitely one of the most talented centers in league history. But as it's a fact, and it goes beyond even our network, he just can't be relied upon in the regular season. You just can't afford it, and having a bunch of stars who can do more offensively while staying healthy, because Maxi it doesn't have that many injury issues. I think he only had like one injury season, and that was the season where the Sixers were just on a weird decline. Um, VJ, he played a lot of games. Jalen Brown, he hasn't had that many injury issues as well. And LeBron, outside of that 2020-21 season with Solomon Hill, he's been pretty good. So these guys are more durable than Embiid already. So and that's crazy to say for a 41-year-old. So yeah, Embiid needs to look at this as an opportunity to take a backseat, make the biggest sacrifice for a championship, and then come playoff time, we've seen teams shift their schemes entirely in the playoffs. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
So if anything, that is the perfect time to switch it up from no from little Embiid touches to more touches.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I just Embiid, he's such a complicated player to talk about because he is so talented, like we were saying. But yeah, he's just needed in the playoffs at this point. That's really all he's needed for, which sounds terrible, I feel like, but it's the reality of the situation. They, like you said, they need to switch their scheme completely in the playoffs. He's the reason they came back 3-1 and beat the Boston Celtics last year. Him alone is the reason for that comeback, in my opinion. He was just unstoppable on the offensive end. Every possession, he either scored or got fouled, got Neemias Queta out of the game, feeling like every 2 minutes. Um, and he can do that same thing against better, more talented bigs, too. He scored 70 points against Victor Wembanyama. People seem to forget that, but sure, it was a younger Victor, but putting up 70 against one of the greatest defenders I believe I've ever seen is still insanely impressive.
83 is bigger than 70, just saying. But
The
but
Heat
let
bias coming out. There it is.
let's shift over to the Heat side of things. Obviously missing out on LeBron. Not the end all for the Heat's offseason, but
Mhm.
definitely an impact. They still have 3 roster spots to fill. They have about 10 million in space before crossing that first apron threshold. They're already hard capped there, but they don't want to cross it. Pat Riley has mentioned bringing a big man and a playmaker. Now, AP, if you are the Heat, there's a lot of free agents available still. KCP won't be there anymore going to Philly. What are some targets that you see that are more reliable for the on the Heat side of things?
The ones I see talked about the most are DeMar DeRozan, Klay Thompson, and Mario Hezonja a little bit, which yeah, that's a little bit laughable. No offense to him, but that's not a guy that's going to push you over the hump, in my opinion, at least not at this stage. But I don't like DeRozan. I'm just not a fan of his game. I'm sure he's a great guy, but as a player, I just don't think he offers a ton offensively. He can score the ball, don't get me wrong, but his shot from the outside is so poor that I just feel like the Heat need shooters. I think that's pretty consensus, and you would agree with that. So a guy like Clay to me is a little more interesting, only if his contract is bought out. I don't want to see them trade for Clay. I don't know what assets they even would have in that scenario to give up, but Clay's an interesting one to me if his contract is bought out. In terms of a big man, there's really limited backup center options on the market at this point. Um, I'm thinking like Nick Richards is a guy that I've seen for the Sixers. Another guy would be like Kelly Olynyk, who these aren't like push you over the top names, but they don't necessarily need that with Bam at center.
I agree. I'm on the Nick Richards train.
Okay.
I like his game. He's a simple center. He works around the rim, a
Yeah.
big body. I think he really has yet to be an aggressive rebounder, and It's just more so I feel like he can do a lot more there. So maybe that's an area that Eric Spoelstra can unlock for him if he were to sign. And in terms of a playmaker, I'm going straight to Bradley Beal.
Hmm.
I mean, he's proven to be a facilitator with Washington and Phoenix. And the Clipper days obviously weren't that great, but then again, for anybody, they weren't great. So I would lean more with that, and I agree with you on the DeRozan part. I'm sure he's a great guy, but the style doesn't really fit, and also you're not starting over Andrew Wiggins at this
True.
point in your career. It's just not gonna happen, and I'm sure even every other uh, contender, especially in the East, if they're looking to sign DeRozan, they want him to take that bench role. And let's see if he does because I mean, I'm sure it was challenging for Russell Westbrook to do it. So imagine how challenging it'll be for DeMar DeRozan. I mean, it's a new era. It's a new era, new chapter, but it's still one that LeBron can dominate the the NBA schedule and even have Adam Silver stressing about making a decision.
Yeah, to me, I like the Beal move actually. I wasn't a huge fan of him in Phoenix either, to be honest with you. I don't think him or Devin Booker is the greatest playmaker out there. It's just, I think, a little unnatural for either of them, which is why that team struggled in part. But the Beal fit in Miami would not be bad by any means. That's another guy who can score for you and facilitate kind of secondarily, which is really all you need at this point. Yes, you could obviously benefit from like a primary playmaker, but I think you'd be all right without one, in all honesty. In terms of backup centers, like you mentioned, Nick Richards is kind of your typical five man, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in my eyes, which is not a bad thing. Hopefully, Bam's continued to work on his 3-point shot because ideally you want some sort of spacing in the front court. So if you have Giannis and Nick Richards out there, that could get a little questionable in terms of spacing, but hopefully you have enough shooters around that front court to kind of make up for it.
I mean, let's keep in mind Bobby Portis is a pretty good three
True.
point shooter, so that's some good spacing to add. He could play in any lineup really in that front court. The shooting is like I understand it's a big topic, and it's mainly because they don't have the flashiest of shooters, but
Right.
they do have guys who are efficient. Like
Davion Mitchell. Yeah.
Davion Mitchell, like he's not a high volume shooter, but he'll take them and he's made them.
Hmm.
I'm assuming this season that the number's gonna go up on attempts. Bobby, Wiggins, Pell Larson, Jovic. I'm not. I'm a shut up right now. Actually, I don't know how to feel about Jovic sometimes, but they got some good shooters. Also, Tim Hardaway. I mean, like
Yeah.
they've already got some good shooting options. So I think that this whole obsession about shooters needs to kind of calm down. The Clay Thompson move, I'm a bit iffy about only because we're at the later stage of his career and obviously the two major injuries he's coming off of just a few years ago. I don't know how to feel about that honestly. Even in a buyout situation, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair. He's not the player he once was by any means. I think their biggest need probably is some sort of extra guard, honestly, because what would the starting five look like right now?
Right
Would
now,
would Pele be at the two?
in my opinion, it's Mitchell. I think Hardaway should start,
Hardaway, okay.
and then we go with Wiggins, and then Giannis and Bam.
Yeah, so to me, I don't love Tim Hardaway Jr. as a starter at this stage of his career, but he does add shooting, like you said. Davion Mitchell can shoot the ball pretty well. I worry about this might sound crazy to you, but I worry about the lack of veteran leadership. And that's not to say that they don't have veterans, but they don't have veterans that are experienced in the way I want them to be. Tim Hardaway is an NBA champion, correct? Did he
Tim,
win with the Nuggets?
no, he was not on that team.
He was not on that team. Okay. So, like, that's another example of a guy that that's part of the reason I like the Clay move. Clay has been to the biggest stage plenty of times knows exactly what it's like, knows what it's like to play under those lights, and was a big part of it. So that's a guy that I believe could step up when it matters most. Obviously, Giannis is going to step up when it matters most. You might be able to talk a little bit more about what Bam has looked like in those two finals runs, the 2020 and
It's
2023.
it's a bit complicated, mainly because of this aspect. Now, I've said before, I believe Bam can be your second option. I'm not confident in Bam
Mhm.
being the first. I've said that before. I've said in these words exactly. Bam can win you a playoff game or even games, but he has not proven to win you a series. And granted, you had arguably the best playoff riser ahead of you, so understandably, you haven't been able to prove it. But at in those runs, I was not confident in Bam's mid range as it's been over the last couple of years.
Okay.
Like I would love to picture even last season's Bam with 2023's Jimmy in the playoffs. That would
Mhm.
be more dangerous offensively and probably would have been better for the Heat because when Jimmy had that ankle injury against the Knicks in the second round, that sort of you had to rely on Max Strus more, Gabe Vincent more. And granted, they had their moments, but you don't really want to rely on those guys specifically in these situations. Kyle Lowry had good moments in there as well, and so I do agree with you. Veteran leadership is great because when the Heat had Kyle and Kevin Love on that bench, the vibes were high. But with Bam, this is gonna be very different because obviously you got Giannis and he has the most points scored in a closeout game in the NBA Finals, 50, like the 50 pointer against Phoenix, like that what is gonna be iconic forever. I'm curious as to how he'll do in these playoffs because his game is gonna be more expanded, more opportunities are gonna be there, and I mean, Boston, in my opinion, Boston's not really in this picture in terms of where the elite of the East. I'm not really looking at them as a threat. So I'm looking at Philly. I'm looking at New York mainly. I think those are the top three in terms of a tier, in my opinion.
Okay.
So with Bam, I'm very curious as to what's gonna happen because this is arguably the most complete he's looked offensively.
Yeah, that's fair. I would agree with your kind of tier one of the East for sure. New York, Philly, Miami. I could almost make an argument, honestly, to put my bias aside to put Philly a little above the other two.
I
Um,
can agree with you on that. I can agree
yeah,
with you.
just and they have that veteran leadership that I was talking about. They have arguably the greatest leader in NBA history now
I, I
in
think
LeBron
I think
James.
I think the I think it was I forgot who posted it, but the Sixers are the only ever to add two Finals MVPs in the same
Yeah.
offseason.
Yeah, so like that, there's your checkbox of having playoff experience right there. That's what you need.
Mhm.
Guys who have been there, guys who have risen to the occasion when they get there. And Jalen Brown and LeBron James both certainly check that box. Even a guy like KCP is very experienced in the playoffs. He has two rings himself, one with the Lakers and one with the Nuggets, I believe.
This guy loves to beat the Heat for some reason in the
Uh,
finals.
he, he- it's
This
just
guy
part of
loves
his
to get in
game,
the
part of his
this
game.
this guy. It's funny to say it, but KCP is part of the reason why Jimmy doesn't have a ring, and that's crazy to say.
Yeah, it's a weird saying for sure.
No, I agree with you. Philly is a notch over anybody in the East. So I 1000% agree with you there. And I said that the Knicks were the team to beat because they just won the chip, but if anything, it's Philly now. That is the team to beat in the Eastern
Yeah,
Conference and they're gonna play on Christmas. They're gonna play on opening day without a doubt. I think that Philly against New York at MSG is gonna be a very great opening day slot, especially with LeBron being on the roster. That's gonna be so weird though to see him in blue. Like
I'm not. You won't hear me say a bad word about it.
this is so weird. It's just you don't expect it, especially at this point. Man, what an offseason this has been, AP.
It's truly absurd. to say the least, especially for the 76ers. Like,
Yeah, anything less of an Eastern Conference Finals is an obvious failure.
agreed.
But the talent and depth on that roster, Nick Nurse is gonna have a field day.
Mhm.
He's got everything in place to go get a second ring in the NBA. But that will be all for today's episode on the Heat Wave podcast. Please make sure to check out the Miami Heat on the Roundtable Sports Network. Just scan the QR code at the very top. Create an account. You can use your Google account and then just click or tap the join button to be a part of the Miami Heat community. And do the same for the Philadelphia 76ers because this upcoming NBA season is going to be quite the ride for both of these Eastern Conference just gauntlets of a roster. Thank you, AP, for joining,
Of
and
course.
make sure to subscribe to the Heatwave podcast.